Welcome on in, friends, to a tutorial video for one of the most exciting building projects I have ever come up with, introducing the world's smallest buildable PC. The design of our build was inspired by my own personal rig, housed in an NZXT H510 case, which apparently was perfectly designed to be emulated in LEGO form. And just like a real PC, our build features all of the essential components and more. The components of our tiny buildable PC are a case, motherboard, processor, storage, memory, cooling, expansion card, graphics card, and power supply. Just how small is the world's smallest buildable PC? Well, it's about 7 centimeters tall, 6.7 centimeters long, and 4 centimeters wide, or a bit taller than a minifigure, a Lego brick, and shorter than a pop can. And now it's time to show you how all of these individual components come together to build our mini PC. I am not going to be showing you how to build each of the individual pieces, and that's just because we have the free instructions, of course, available on our website, so you'll be able to learn how to build them that way. But I'm just going to talk about some of the different features of them and then bring them together bit by bit. So we're going to first start with the PC case, which we've made a little bit more modular than the actual NZXT H510 PC case, just because we're working within such a small space, makes it a little bit more accessible. We're using a lot of different snot techniques in here, some brackets, more brackets, some snot bricks, other brackets and stuff like that, to allow us to get a lot of the connection points that we need for various components. We also have a little kind of hole left on the back where our power supply is going to go, and then have some, of course, some cute little feet, some Technic bricks to give us that look there. We've got the top of our case, which is a very simple little build, has a little gap for the bracket that's here. And then we've got the back of our PC case, which has kind of the ports that you would expect from the motherboard, a port from the power supply. And what's cool about this little bit is that it can actually be built in 2 different ways with the same pieces. So if you're going for a horizontal GPU mount, you can obviously have the slot be horizontal, or if you're doing a vertical GPU mount, you can use those same pieces to build one with a vertical slot. So you can do it up either way. Let's start to bring some of this together. Of course, one of the first components we would work with here is the motherboard. Very simply made out of a couple of different pieces here. Gives us a space to attach our CPU, which goes right there. Of course, always being careful to put that on nice and slowly so you don't ruin any of the pins. Then we've got our M2 as NVMe SSD, which goes on right here. I would note you could probably put an HDD drive somewhere else within the build. I like how clean the M2 drive kind of keeps the build. We've got some 1x2 tiles for our RAM. And I, of course, went with lime green to match the look of my actual PC. And I think it just does a good job of kind of mirroring, some RGB RAM sticks. But of course, you could go with any other color you'd like. The AIO has to be one of the parts I'm the most proud of. It uses some little Lego whip pieces to give it some flexibility and move, and kind of, it honestly feels just as stiff and annoying to work with as an actual AIO does. But yeah, that's just connected to a couple of different pieces here and allows us to assemble it as like we would with a real PC. And of course, before we put on the AIO, we want to make sure we get some thermal paste with a nice little Lego needle here onto our CPU, so we get some good thermal contact. Gotta put that thermal paste on, and then we connect our AIO. And now that we have all this assembled, we can work this into our actual PC. And there are only 2 connection points so that the motherboard is reasonably removable. And then the AIO we are going to mount onto the front side of the case, just like you would in the NZXT H510. Now that we've got that done, we're going to add our expansion card. For me, this actually would represent more of like my capture card. It's just made of 3 little pieces here, but it also actually helps add a little bit of support to the back by being a bracket there, so it can connect to the backing here. And then last, but certainly not least, our graphics card. I think this is actually usually a little bit easier to put in after the fact, and you can try it both ways, see which works better for you. So we just slot that into that spot there with the little rail piece. This uses some of the cool tiles here to make the fans. I don't have a lot of these though, so you can use plain tiles as well. You don't need the printed ones. They still look pretty good with just the plain ones. And you can see I just slotted that in there, and it is now sitting in a nice horizontal layout. And last, but certainly not least, our power supply, which is going to give some juice to our PC. It's just 2 simple pieces stuck together. And that's going to go on the bottom in that slot in the back that we left open earlier. Then we can attach the top of our case and just slide in the cover here. And boom, the world's smallest buildable PC is complete. The build was, of course, designed to be easily integrated into your home setup. Plug in the power cable, hook up your monitor, and plug in your dongle for your wireless mouse and keyboard, and you're ready to get to work or some play. After finishing the initial build, I couldn't help but build a bunch of variants with different configurations. First, I did a Cyberpunk 2077 inspired design, as I built this shortly before the game's release. I even managed to integrate some lighting into it. Then I did up some builds inspired by some awesome creators, including MKBHD, Linus Tech Tips, a pastel build inspired by both Pokimane and Tiny Makes Things, and a black and purple look for NZXT themselves. Speaking of customizing your build, I want to show you how you can do just that. We're going to start with downloading BrickinNick Studio. It's a free program, very commonly used in the LEGO community to customize digital builds. Once you have that downloaded, you're also going to head over to my website, get the IO file for the PCs downloaded, and then you're going to go ahead and open that up in Studio. That's going to bring you to here, where you can see that we have a bunch of different things for the PC kind of laid out. Got the two different variants, kind of the two main ones that we have. And this will give you a lot of options for how you can go about customizing it. So let's say I want to have a little bit of a simpler design. I'm going to get rid of the Cyberpunk inspired design here. And then on the left, we have the vertical GPU mount backing, and on the right, we have the horizontal one. They actually use the same pieces, so it doesn't matter which one we pick. But for the sake of argument, let's say I want a vertical GPU. Maybe for a little change of pace, I want a gray motherboard instead of a black one. And although I'm just highlighting and clicking delete on these as I go. And then for our graphics card, let's say I want a little bit of a mix of the two options that we have here. So I'm going to control click the three pieces there, delete them. That's an extra from the original design. And then I'm going to grab one of these and hit C to copy. And then I'm just going to paste those over there. So I now have kind of my own customized graphics card. I like the idea of maybe a CPU fan rather than an AIO cooler for this. So I'll leave that. And then I want to customize some of the colors here. I've actually grouped the little kind of highlight stripe there. So I'm going to go ahead and change that to a color of my choice. Let's say I want to make it blue. And then maybe I like the idea of my accent color for my RAM being yellow. Might be going for a ninja branding look here, but and that's all we would need to do to really customize our build. We could save this file, and then we're actually going to take it right back over to BrickinNick. So that, I'm gonna head over to BrickinNick. We're going to go to Wanted, and we're going to go to Upload. So we now have our file uploaded. I've also created a new Wantum list called Custom PC. I'm going to proceed to verify everything here. It's got 63 unique items, which sounds pretty good to me. And we're just going to go to hit Add to Wanted List. And we're going to go ahead and view that list now. I like to get things in a new condition. I don't like to take chances with used stuff for stuff like this. I'm just going to apply that. And then I'm going to go ahead and, or actually I need to set it to 100 per page. Make sure I select all of them and say new. Here we go. So now every item part of this build is going to be a new piece. We're not risking ending up with any bad conditioned pieces. And I'm going to go ahead and just hit buy all. You can filter in a bunch of different ways, but mine's all kind of set for me already. And I'm just going to go ahead and hit auto select and hit start. And then I'm going to see what BrickinNick comes up for me. And it looks like I can actually order everything I need from one store for about $22 Canadian. Now, obviously, once you go beyond this point, you may run into things related to shipping. Stores do have things called minimum buys. This one looks like it doesn't, which is very convenient. But just be aware that depending on how you change some of the parts colors and such, you may end up with different results. So just be aware of kind of how you're going about buying those pieces. But otherwise, that's everything you need to know to get your own little custom LEGO PC ordered. And that's it. Let me know how you would customize your own PC build, and like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video and want to see more awesome building tutorials. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good one, and happy building out there, friends.